Hi, this is Miss Litton, and this is my wonderful Period 4 Honors Bio class. Say hi.
Hi.
All right, so we have already started in on our discussion about hormones and glands, and if you were absent last class and you're absent today, you can go and watch that other video that we did. And we talked already about the different types of hormones, so this should already be familiar to you in your head, right? You should know the difference between protein, water-soluble vitamins, and steroid or lipid hormones. In your head, you should be like, you know how they interact, how they work. You should know about the different ways that our endocrine system is controlled. You should know things about positive and negative feedback. You should know things about contrary hormones. That should already be in your head. You should know about when you secrete too much. Are you trying to raise your hand?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Just before you get started again, I was wondering what more gets you less. What does that really mean?
Okay, I can come back to that. Okay, and then you should also know about hypo and hyper secretion. Hypo secretion when you secrete too little. Hypo is when you secrete too much. Hyper is when you secrete too much. Hypo is too little. Yeah. And then we discussed already the way the hypothalamus controls the pituitary gland, and that there are two parts, the posterior and anterior pituitary. That should already be in your head. And the way it's controlled and the different hormones that come out of there. So if any part of that, make sure to go back and review that. Okay, and so your question about more gets you less has to do with negative feedback. Remember, there's two kinds of feedback, positive and negative. More gets you more is positive feedback. So as for instance, probably the example I gave you was having a baby, and here it is. So when the baby's head pushes against the cervix, that sends a signal to your brain, and your pituitary particularly, you already know this, your posterior pituitary will secrete more oxytocin. So more gets you even more oxytocin, which makes your uterus contract harder, which pushes on your cervix more, which sends more signals to your pituitary gland. Your pituitary gland, again, secretes even more. More gets you more. More gets you less is when you're trying to keep something at a set point, right? So as you have more, you're going to get less of that so you can bring it back down to normal. If it gets too low, you're going to bring it back to normal. And we looked at different ways that can happen. One way we looked at hormones themselves could do it. For instance, your blood sugar, right? What's a hormone that lowers your blood sugar? Insulin. Good. What's one that raises it? Just to keep the level just right. So you're trying to maintain a certain value. Good on that? So I want to jump to where we left off. I have us at slide 26, and slide 26 is okay, so we're moving down. We were at the hypothalamus, the pituitary gland in the brain. Now we're moving here to the neck. We're going to talk about the thyroid gland and the parathyroid gland. Thyroid gland is larger right here. Parathyroid sits on top of it. Okay, what you need to know about the thyroid gland. Okay, you have two hormones from the thyroid gland. Okay, one of those hormones is called thyroid hormone, TH. And thyroid hormone is all about regulating your metabolism. Do you remember the definition of what metabolism is? We learned when we did cellular respiration. It's all the enzyme-mediated reactions of your body. That is your metabolism. Anything that's mediated by an enzyme, that's part of your metabolism, any reaction. So you can have a faster metabolism, you can have a slower metabolism, right? Okay. The second hormone that the thyroid gland secretes is called calcitonin. Calcitonin's job is to lower your blood calcium. If it lowers your blood calcium, it needs to take it out of the blood. Where do you think you're going to store that calcium? In your bones. Exactly. It's going to put it in your bones, and you will store it there. If you need to elevate your blood calcium, a contrary hormone is PTH. And PTH is what the parathyroid glands secrete. And when they secrete parathyroid hormone, that will elevate your blood calcium. Calcitonin brings it down. The way I remember that is calcitone it down now. Calcitone it down. So calcium tones it down. It brings the calcium levels down. parathyroid gland, right on top of it, secretes parathyroid hormone, and it elevates it. Those would be antagonistic or contrary hormones. But don't forget, calcitonin comes from the thyroid gland, but so too does thyroid hormone to control your metabolism. All right, so let's go to our notes on that. And thyroid, introduction, large gland located in your neck. Hormones. Thyroid hormone has multiple targets. It regulates, what's the word we just talked about? Metabolism. Perfect. Now, it requires something in order to make that thyroid hormone. What does it say in the notes that it requires?
Iodine.
Yes, you have to have iodine in order to make thyroid hormone. That's going to become important in just a little bit. Okay, and I'll talk about calcitonin lowers blood calcium levels. Jump down to parathyroid. Parathyroid hormone raises blood calcium. It is contrary to calcitonin. Contrary to calcitonin. All right, now this is something we learned last class. Remember, we had the hypothalamus and we had the pituitary gland. What do we call the pituitary gland? It's got a nickname. Master gland. Why? Blue tell slate. Why did they call it the master gland? Blue tell slate. Did they say something about it controls so many other glands? Okay, perfect. So, if you recall, we said that the hypothalamus can secrete something called releasing hormones. Now, remember the anterior and the posterior pituitary regulated differently. Posterior pituitary, the hypothalamus has neurosecretory cells that extend all the way into the postpit because the posterior pituitary came down out of the hypothalamus during development. The anterior pituitary came up from your mouth and grabbed on. So it doesn't have that direct connection. So as far as those cells can reach is the stalk where the pituitary glands are hanging from. It reaches into the stalk and it secretes releasing hormones. Those releasing hormones get carried to the anterior pituitary, and the anterior pituitary will secrete stimulating hormones. In this case, thyroid stimulating hormones, which will go to the thyroid gland so that the thyroid gland will secrete thyroid hormone. Now, what did we say you needed in order to make thyroid hormone?
Iodine.
Iodine. So if there is no iodine, you won't make any thyroid hormone. Well, if there's no thyroid hormone, then what ends up happening is the hypothalamus then starts yelling at the anterior pituitary, and the anterior pituitary starts yelling at the thyroid gland. Because if the level is better, take a look right here. Okay, so releasing hormones go to the anterior pituitary. Anterior pituitary secretes stimulating hormone. Stimulating hormone stimulates the thyroid gland to secrete thyroid hormone. Slate, you're going to explain that right now with these names. Go ahead, slated one.
Okay, so that's the hypothalamus. Okay, that is the release of the thyroid releasing hormones, which then trigger the pituitary gland to release the thyroid stimulating hormone to go to the thyroid to create thyroid hormones, but if there's no iodine.
Okay, so now what I want you to see is as the thyroid hormone level goes up, it exerts negative feedback on both the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland. It's like when I want to make cookies. I turn my oven to 375. Is it on 375 initially? No. But as it gets hotter and hotter and hotter, the heat gives feedback to the oven. Oven tells the coils inside stop. So it doesn't make any more heat. So you don't make any more thyroid hormone. If the thyroid hormone drops down too low, it'll turn all back on again. You remember when we learned negative feedback and I said, I'm going to show you a picture later. This might be the picture you want to grab to put in those notes underneath negative feedback. If you scroll back into your notes, I talk about thyroid releasing hormone and thyroid stimulating hormone towards the beginning when we did control. You find that. So if there's no thyroid hormone, there's no negative feedback, and the hypothalamus is like getting pissed. It's like saying, I told you to make some thyroid hormone. So it really yells at the pituitary gland, and the pituitary gland starts screaming at the thyroid gland. And this happens again and again, and the thyroid gland's like, I'm doing the best I can, Captain. And it can't make any of that hormone because it doesn't have any flippin' iodine. So what happens is you can end up getting a goiter. So some of you are like, no. That goiter is a result of in here in her brain, she is secreting a whole lot of thyroid stimulating hormone, which was triggered by thyroid releasing hormone, and it's telling her thyroid gland, let's go. But she can't make it because she doesn't have any iodine. If she doesn't have any iodine, she can't make any thyroid. It's like, don't write on it. It makes it grosser. Then she can't make any thyroid hormone. Yes?
How would you get rid of that?
Very good. What do you think you need? Iodine. Yeah. And we have solved that problem here in the United States because we don't see this much anymore. We don't, no. We don't see this much anymore because what kind of salt do we have here in the United States? Iodized salt. That is why. So next time there's salt, yeah, at the dinner table, you can tell that little story. You know how your parents ask you, how was school today? And you wanted to say, what do you say every time? Fine. Exactly. So, did I already have this conversation with you? Do your parents make you do highs and lows?
No.
Oh, I used to make my kids do that. Highs and lows. They had to tell me the high point of their day and the low point, and whoever went got to tell the next person who they had to go. So you do highs and lows. So just in case your parents make you talk at the table, here are some talking points for you. You can talk about iodized salt. And if they allow you to have your phone at the table, you could get a really nice picture of goiter and show it to them. And maybe they'll stop asking you. Just an idea. Yes?
What happens when you have goiter and there is, you don't fix it?
Well, the thing is, with that problem, that's a really good question. If you don't make it, if you're hyposecreting, these gentlemen are all the same age, okay, and this is called cretinism. Now, they could have it for various reasons. They have enough iodine because their thyroid gland isn't enlarged, so their issue is something else. And what's happening here is they're not growing and maturing, even though they're all the same age. And if this happens from birth on, not only will you be shorter in stature, but you also have some mental incapabilities, things you can't do because it didn't develop. So in this case, this hypothyroidism was in an adult. So you changed because his metabolism was slowed down because he didn't have thyroid hormone. Once he had could take pills, then he looks, like how he had done before. I had a girlfriend in high school who got cancer of her thyroid gland, and so they had to remove it entirely, and it changed her features and her characteristics tremendously. And it got better as she was able to take pills, but it's never as good as when your body just regulates it naturally through feedback mechanisms, because you're just guessing. It's kind of like a diabetic, right? Most of you who are not diabetics, you don't have to worry about your blood sugar level. But if you are a diabetic, does anybody know somebody who has to wear a pump? Yeah. So they manage through it because that's the life, But it would be ideal if it would just be regulated normally in your pancreas. Yes.
So you said that when they how does it change your appearance with the thyroid?
Because it slows down your metabolism enough, and for her, she was a dancer, and she's super bright, smart, everything. It changed her body. She didn't look like a dancer anymore because she didn't have that thyroid hormone. Yeah. Yes.
So I was asking, does the goiter infect your breathing and?
Oh yeah, I guess it could push against your trachea and everything. It'd be hideous. So I'm sure they have to do some. I don't know. These are extreme situations. Which I just did for your viewing pleasure.
A scarf.
Okay, now this is hyperthyroidism. This is called Graves' disease. And I actually, when I was in Vegas, saw somebody who had Graves' disease at a bar. It was a friend of a friend. And of course I had to get myself right next to him because I needed to talk to him. I wanted to know more about it. And I was trying to talk about just anything other than his eyes. But then, I finally got a way to kind of, talk about, biology, or he asked what I did, so I got a way in. And I really wanted to take a picture, but I thought it was inappropriate. But what I want to tell you about is that he was discussing, and his eyes really, really protruded out there. And he said he's already had it done a couple times before. They would need to kind of bring his eye out a little bit from his socket and then scrape. What happens is connective tissue builds up behind the eyeball, and they have to scrape that connective tissue out and then allow it to go back in. Yeah. Now, yeah, that's why it's so far out. Now, do you see how some of you are responding? You can't see what I see. Some of you are doing this, where you're covering your eyes. Then some of you go, it's just what she's saying that's bothering me. So I'm going to go ahead and cover my ears, okay? And some of you did this, again, because you're hiding from it. I want to tell you, we're going to talk about the nervous system today. So when I talk to you about things that you can envision, because you can envision somebody pulling out your eyeball and scraping behind it. Again, I just saw her do this. Right?
My eyes are
Your brain is so amazing because even though this isn't happening to you, you can imagine it happening to you. And you can envision that. And so you're responding. I just want to bring that to your attention. All right. So go to your notes.
That's so cool.
I know, I always say Where am I? Go to disorders. You already have goiter. And do you see how I have cretinism in mini-me?
Yeah.
Okay, but it's going to come up in your practice quiz later, so just read through it, though I won't hold you accountable for it. Cretinism is hyposecretion since birth. And then I gave you everything for parathyroid gland. All right. Nice. Now, let's move on to another gland, your adrenal gland. Your adrenal gland has two parts. The outermost part is called the adrenal cortex, just like you have your cerebral cortex. Yeah. And the middle part is your adrenal medulla. Yes?
So, you know how it says medulla? Wasn't there something else with like medulla oblongata?
Yes. Medulla oblongata in your brain, in that innermost region. Yeah, inside. So now, if you just said adrenal gland, 9 times out of 10, what do you think people, if they were going to guess a hormone, what would they guess?
Adrenaline.
Adrenaline, and that would be right. And adrenaline comes from the middle of the adrenal gland. Another name for adrenaline is epinephrine. And there's adrenaline and noradrenaline, or epinephrine and norepinephrine, and that comes from the middle of the adrenal gland. This is immediate stress. And this would be like, hey, I decided pop quiz today. Let's take it. Okay? You might go and pee a little in your pants. Probably you're not going to pee a little bit, but if you have seen those people have the little rat dogs, and it's like they come home and they're like, meow, meow, meow. Right? And that's part of that whole fight or flight. Because I might need to go ahead and get rid of this urine real quick because I'm either going to fight you or I'm going to run away. So I don't want to have the density of that urine that I'm carrying. So that's all part of it. Sometimes when you're real nervous, maybe you're going to perform and you know you're going to be in front of people, you have to go what first? Pee. You're like, I have to go pee, I have to go pee. And then you're going to go pee and then you're okay. That's part of your fight or flight. That's part of your adrenaline immediate stress. When you look at the sustained stress from your adrenal cortex, this is like a semester's worth of school. This is like, I have to get up every morning. Oh my gosh, I have homework. I have this class. I have to sit through this class. Okay, I have practice. Okay, I'm tired. I'm hungry. I'm tired. I'm tired. I'm tired. Okay, I have practice. I got to go to school. I'm tired. I'm hungry. I'm tired. Okay, you live like stress for a semester. That would be sustained stress response. Okay, your adrenal cortex. Yes.
Is it possible to not have the adrenaline like?
Oh, secreted? Yeah, I guess if something was wrong, I guess if somebody is like the whole time, that's probably true. You know, maybe they have really low amounts. Also, some people have too much. Adrenaline is like fight or flight, and noradrenaline is the same, but anger. Do you know anybody who has anger management issues? Like, oh, yes. Okay. Some people like always overreacting to the scene, always. Okay. That is the noradrenaline if they have anger issues. You can see that if somebody ever surprises you and like startles you. You know, some people, they just love to surprise and startle. Okay, and so that makes them feel empowered to startle you. So they're always like, you know. And if somebody ever did that to you and they startled you, and then you go, and then you hit them, the hitting is the noradrenaline. The is the adrenaline. Okay. If, let's say, a mom was worried about their kid and they started to run out in the street, and she's like, ah, and goes and gets the kids and then starts going, why were you running out in the street? And starts yelling at their child, that's the noradrenaline. If your parents do that to you, okay, you came home late, they're worried, and then as they're yelling at you, they actually get mad, you know, and you're like, why you, well, because, and you just amp up. It doesn't do, mom, right? It's mom over dad? Yeah. Yeah, because see, this is how dads usually operate. They don't react. Your moms are pretty consistent, but when your dad goes, he goes. Right? It's like a switch, a game on, right? And so moms are usually more the consistent day in, day out because they run the house for the most part. When the dad gets involved in that, okay? So people release it at different times. Some people are always angry. Some people are like more loving, you know. It all depends. But they are two different hormones. It doesn't do you any good to inform a parent, you know you're secreting too much noradrenaline right now, because that will actually increase the amount that they are secreting at that time. Okay? So go to your notes. Adrenal medulla controlled by the ANS, short-term response to stress. Adrenaline, epinephrine is fight or what? Fight or flight. And noradrenaline or norepinephrine is with anger. With anger. Now, when somebody startles you, do you ever have to say, oh, I forgot to be startled? Okay? No, you're not, that's automatically for you because in your motor nerves that come out, which you learned about this from your ed puzzle I had you do last night, you have your somatic and autonomic nervous system. Autonomic, what do you hear in that? Automatic, right? So you don't even have to think about it. So this is part of your autonomic nervous system. Whereas somatic, this is somatic. I am choosing to move. That's somatic, is autonomic. Okay? How many of you had a snack at nutrition? Are you having to remind yourself to digest that snack? No, it's doing it all on its own. That's part of your autonomic nervous system. Okay?
Yeah.
All right, and then adrenal cortex controlled by ACTH. Remember, that's adrenal corticotropic hormone. Who secretes it?
Yep. Love that adrenal corporate. I forgot.
Who? No, we're at the adrenal cortex, but it is stimulated. Yes, it is stimulated by adrenal corticotropic hormone that comes from your anterior pituitary. Good. There's only 2 classes of hormones from your post-pit. What are they? Oxytocin and ADH. So I want you to think about this. When a woman, let's say, in a jungle-like environment, decides, what does oxytocin do? Makes the baby what? Come out. So all of a sudden she's walking in this jungle environment and she grabs a post and then pushes the baby out. Okay? Posterior pituitary, baby out. Post-pit. Can you imagine her? Yeah. One hand to catch the baby, one hand to hold on to the post. And then maybe ADH, that's like you're peeing out, so maybe you stop the pee and you're just going to hang on to the post while you're peeing. See? Posterior pituitary, ADH, oxytocin. You got them down. All those other ones come from the anterior pituitary. It'll work, I promise. All right. Look at the hormones underneath the adrenal cortex, and I would like slate to take care of the glucocorticoids, even though it's mini-me. And I would like blue to take care of the mineral corticoids. Go ahead.
Glucocorticoids. That's you.
Oh no, yeah.
And is stress?
Yeah. Glucocorticoids.
Have you seen?
Glucocorticoids. I think I put that.
Have you seen a regular TV strip? Just say it.
Glucocorticoids.
So what's the word under adrenal cortex? What's the word you needed for adrenal cortex? Stress. Good. Now, did anybody watch the Oscars? Yeah. Okay. So when they're waiting to hear what name's going to get called, what part of their adrenal gland is firing? What do you think?
The epinephrine.
Okay, so adrenal cortex or adrenal medulla?
Cortex.
Adrenal medulla. Because that's the fight or flight in that moment, right? It's in that moment they're waiting to get their name called. Okay? So that would be the adrenal medulla. All right? Moving on, let's go to the pancreas. He is a playa. The pancreas is both an exocrine gland and an endocrine gland. Blue, tell the difference between an exocrine and an endocrine gland, please. Not the pancreas example, but overall, what's the difference between an exocrine and an endocrine? Okay, exocrine glands secrete into ducts, D-U-C-T-S, like a sweat gland, okay, into a duct. An endocrine gland secretes into your blood. Okay, the pancreas is both. It is an exocrine gland for digestion. It secretes 3 different categories of digestive enzymes to digest carbs, proteins, and fats. So it plays a very important role in digestion. It is an endocrine gland because little areas of the pancreas are called islets of Langerhans. Go ahead, say that word. Islets of Langerhans. So islets like a little island, and named after, I bet, you could Google it, but I bet Langerhans the guy who figured it out. I don't really know. Could be a language issue, I don't know. But islets, why are they named islets of Langerhans? And in there you have two types of cells. You have alpha and beta cells in your little islets. The beta cells secrete insulin, and the alpha cells secrete glucagon. And you already, are they named after him? Oh, okay, there we go. And not it. I would like Nadia to pass or play explaining how insulin and glucagon works. Go ahead.
Okay, so if you have high blood glucose in the pancreas, insulin is released by the beta cells of the pancreas. Then the fat cells take glucose from the blood and achieve glucose levels. If you have low blood in the pancreas, glucagon is released by alpha cells at the pancreas. Then the liver releases glucose in the blood to make fat to achieve the normal blood glucose levels.
How do you remember insulin lowers?
All right.
I just know that because like when you're diabetic.
So, on your pancreas, we have the exo, the endo. And for hormones, insulin does what? Lowers blood glucose. And glucagon raises it. Now, we already learned about one type of diabetes. What kind of diabetes did we already learn about? Diabetes insipidus. And remember we said you need to insipidus some more water, right? And that's because you don't have enough what? ADH. What does ADH stand for? Anti-diuretic hormone. I don't want to die, so I secrete that hormone. It helps me reabsorb water in my kidneys, okay? So people who struggle with that, that's one form of diabetes. There are other types of diabetes, type 1, type 2. So let's go over those. Type 1 is juvenile onset, and usually it's an autoimmune destruction of your islets of Langerhans. Now, if you end up destroying the cells that make insulin, you won't have enough insulin. What does insulin help do? Lowers. So if you don't have insulin, you're going to have to take, sometimes you can control it with the foods that you eat because it's only moderate amounts of it, so they just have to be very, very careful what they eat. But if not, you're going to have to take insulin, either a shot, pump, some way you're going to need to have insulin come in your body. And that is type 1, juvenile onset. Type 2 is maturity onset. And this is usually as a result of you get that because you have elevated sugar in your diet on a regular basis. And where you see this, let me give you an example. You know, like if you go to a place that has a hot, or you have a hot tub and you have it set really hot, you know, when you first go in the hot tub, you're like, hot, hot, hot. Or if you draw a bath and it's really hot, and then finally you go, and you can just chillax in that hot tub. It's still the same temperature, but your body isn't going hot, 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 hot. Your body is like, you keep telling me it's hot, I got it, and it shuts it out. If you keep having over amounts of sugar in your diet, sugar, 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 you're saying, I need insulin, I need insulin, I need insulin, I need insulin, and then pretty soon your body goes, no, 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 no. And so even though you're making the insulin, your cells stop responding to it. That is type 2. So that's why you want to look at that. If you even, you know, borderline being a sugar addict, I would borderline on that. I love candy, cakes, brownies, but also chips and dips and bread and butter. Just do. But you want to watch out for that because that continual eating of that sugar can end up making you be a diabetic later. So let's look at this little clip here. It's way 1970s, so just appreciate it.
Oh no.
Glucose enters
That
the
was your-
bloodstream when the body breaks down.
That was fight or flight.
Yeah. That's what I was trying to think of.
The level of glucose in our blood is controlled mainly by the pancreas, which manufactures and releases the hormone insulin.
I didn't pee.
Insulin works like a key, allowing the body's cells to take glucose up out of the bloodstream and store or use it as energy. In diabetes, two complications can arise. If the pancreas does not release enough insulin, the body's tissues can't take up glucose fully, and glucose levels in the bloodstream rise. The problem is compounded when tissues are insulin resistant and don't respond properly to insulin. Again, the cells can't take up glucose appropriately, and glucose levels in the bloodstream rise.
Could Slate please differentiate between type 1 and type 2 diabetes, please?
Type 2 diabetes is when your body doesn't respond to insulin. Type 1 is like juvenile and type 2 is adult.
Okay, now come back to me. Type 1, you do not produce enough insulin. Do not produce enough insulin. What's the word right there? Hypo. Low, right? Hypo is low, so not enough insulin. Type 2, the body tissues do not respond to insulin. The body tissues do not respond to insulin. So this next video is going to show you some graphs. You should be able to understand those graphs, okay, as they are presented to you. As they are presented to you.
As blood glucose levels increase after a meal, non-diabetics release insulin. Insulin signals the cells in muscle and liver to take up glucose from the blood. This causes blood sugar levels to return to normal. In untreated type 1 diabetes, no insulin is released and blood sugar levels remain high. Type 1 diabetes is treated by injection of exogenous insulin. This insulin has the same effect as normal insulin. In type 2 diabetes, insulin is released in response to a blood glucose increase, but the cells do not receive the signal. One treatment for type 2 diabetics is Avandia, an oral thiazolidinedione that increases cell sensitivity to normal insulin. An effective treatment for obese patients is metformin, an oral medication that blocks liver synthesis of glucose.
Okay, so when you're trying, if you have tissues that are going na 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 and not listening to the insulin, there are some drugs that kind of remove the fingers from the ears, so it pays attention a little bit better and starts to take in some of that glucose. And then another option is, we know due to the hepatic portal vein, right? Blood is shunted from the small intestines to the liver, right? Remember that? And in the liver, it will release the right amount of sugar that you need. So for some patients, if they have too much sugar, the drug can kind of inhibit the ability for the liver to release that glucose back out. So now, not it. Whoever's not it, pass or play, ask 2 quiz questions over anything so far.
What is the difference between
Okay, now, hopefully they asked you a couple questions. Listen up. Log in as your favorite movie star. Your favorite movie star.
Wait, you haven't done this yet.
I have. Not last class.
You did?
See, we need a
Favorite
monster.
movie star.
What is this?
Tell Jennifer she has to log in.
Log in, girl.
Movie star, can it be from TV?
Yes, it can be a TV show. Favorite actor. That's what I should have said. Thank you. Favorite actor.
Didn't we do that last time? Oh, we did movie character.
We did movie characters. Now I want the actor's name.
9, 2, 6, 7, 2.
You can be that, baby. I don't care. I'm just trying to provide a little theme.
What am I going to be?
Yes, by all means.
Joseph Stalin.
Here, bud.
Someone said
They
Joseph
spelled it
Stalin.
wrong.
That's a guy.
Blake Lively. Preach.
Refreshing.
I don't know what I'm going to be. I'm going to be...
All right, we're gonna go.
Wait, I'm almost putting it in. I'm going to be...
I just had to pick one.
It's only one question.
What should I be?
Look in the top left-hand corner.
You spelled Jennifer.
I know. Odd answer. Oh.
Trying to see what you know already.
Are you gonna
13.
I put test.
Did it tell you at what point you finished?
No, that's what. Oh, test is in 4 hours.
Are you struggling? Okay. So,
What did you say?
nice.
What?
Testosterone. It sounds like it'll tell you.
Zach's gonna fall. Two people spelled it like that.
Testosterone.
Testosterone.
Sperm.
I want some testosterone. All right. Now, let's practice reading, shall we? Type the male sex hormone. It's not a penis. It's not progest. I'm thinking they were trying to write progesterone. And it's not testes. Testes and a penis, those are organs. Okay? Testosterone, that's a hormone. So look at your BioBuddy screen. Shame or
Shame.
celebration?
How do you not know?
All right. So now, here's some testosterone. I would like you and your BioBuddy to look at testosterone, and I would like you to pick, share with your BioBuddy your 2 favorite effects of testosterone. Go ahead.
Ooh, okay.
Muscle.
I'm only picking That's part of it. Just
Produces feelings.
What?
and sex drive. It says it right
Okay,
there.
now come back to me. I'm going to tell you, okay, there's some other things on there. Produces red blood cells. So a lot of times people don't think about that connection there. Or aids memory. And I'm going to tell you guys, any of you guys in this room that are struggling with acne, that's because you have so much testosterone, because you're very manly. So if you're like, oh my gosh, I have acne, go, that's because I'm so manly. I don't know what to tell you. Okay, now let's do the same for this woman with no arms. Pick a couple of your favorite effects of estrogen. Go ahead.
I would say maturation of ovaries because that gives babies and I want a baby.
The brain.
The heart.
Oh, heart. I like heart.
Okay, now I'm gonna just point out one thing to you here: how estrogen helps preserve bone density. You have an increase in the amount of estrogen that you have once you start going through your menstrual cycle, and if you are too thin and you do not have a menstrual cycle, then you will not have estrogen, and then what can be wrong with you? Bone density. Especially people who their athletic event they have really promotes super skinniness, like dancers, like gymnasts, you know, and they can end up being, 16-year-old girls, but having the bone density of an 80-year-old, woman. And then that can end up to long-term damage. So it's important for you to have your menstrual cycle, ladies, and being too thin can really throw that off. Yes?
Like girls have estrogen for the bone density. Do guys have anything?
Your testosterone is going to help with that. But usually, you know, the huevos are usually working on that end. Yeah. Unless, what's something you could do? You could take what? Well, yeah, you can for other reasons. But sometimes guys take what? Steroids. What happens is negative feedback. So as they take steroids, it's negative feedback on their hypothalamus, who secretes gonadotropic releasing hormone, which then makes your pituitary not secrete follicle stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone. So their testes don't get at the stimulus, and they will actually shrivel. And they will stop generating testosterone, and then you'll have all kinds of issues as a result of not having it. Yeah. All right. So on your testes and ovaries, steroid hormones that affects gamete development, development of hair. I don't know why I have that on there twice. Hair growth, functions of the sex organs, and I gave you ovaries and testes. I gave you ovaries and testes. All right. Oh, here's another question for you. Let's see how you do.
Oh.
How do I enter?
Then you gotta click the arrow and then click submit. Oh, there you go.
Oh, there you go.
Okay, look, see our little Wordle up here? Most of you got it, and even you got it.
Estrogen.
Yeah. No, it's just because it's capital. That was all.
You're
So
like,
it's still right.
estrogen.
Yes. Good. All right. Now, I want you to think back to another system you've already learned, the immune system. Okay, when I talked about the special forces and acquired immunity, what two cells come to mind? B and T. Where do B and T cells originate? Good. Where do B cells mature? Where do T cells mature? And the hormone is thymosin. Okay? And so your thymus gland produces thymosin, helps with your T cell maturation. So thymus gland, hormone is thymosin, gland above the heart, larger in children. Remember little eviscerated girl I showed you? And then stimulates T cell maturation. T cell maturation. Okay, riddle me this. Do any of you, sometimes on the weekend, wake up at normal school time for just a few seconds, and then you're like going, it's Saturday, and then you go,
Yeah.
Okay, you know what I mean?
That's
Okay?
literally what I do.
These
I'm
are
like,
called your circadian rhythms, your daily behavior, where you have the same things going on about the same time. Your wake up is pretty normal. When you get hungry is pretty much at the same time. When you get sleepy is pretty much at the same time. And that is regulated in part, in a large part, due to your pineal gland. Now, your eyes, obviously here, but your occipital lobe right here at the back of your brain is where you interpret vision. This is sometimes called your third eye, your pineal gland. Because what happens is, as you sleep, as you don't get light, the levels of its hormone called melatonin go up. Okay? And then when you're exposed to light, the melatonin levels go down. In fact, if you wake up in the middle of the night and you have to pee, first of all, some of you are annoyed that you have to wake up in the middle of the night. You want to see if you can ignore the pee, but sometimes you can't ignore the pee, so you're like, oh, if I don't get up, okay? If you get up and you flip on a light, what's going to happen to your melatonin levels?
they go down.
It's going to go down. So ideally, if you could navigate your way to the bathroom and not pee on the floor or trip, leave your lights off, okay? The darker that room, the more consistent your melatonin levels are going to be, and then that way you'll have a better sleep and you'll return to sleep faster. So if you look here there was light, no melatonin. As you go to sleep, it rises. If you see light, like if you have a clock that generates light or a cable box that generates light and you look at it, your melatonin's going to go, meh, okay? And then it might take you longer and you won't get that deep sleep because your melatonin levels don't ever get back up. Okay, now why would this have ever been adaptive? This has to do mostly to do with reproduction. And so animals, don't think us. You can have sex throughout the year at the appropriate time. But other animals, they want to reproduce so that their babies are not born in the middle of winter, but they're born in the spring. You've all seen Bambi, okay? Oh no, mother. Okay, so you want it so they can grow spring and summer. So notice in the winter you have a lot more melatonin in your system than in the summer, where the days, the nights are shorter. So that is kind of a whole regulation that way. So on your notes, pineal gland, hormone is melatonin, gland in the brain, and it's called your circadian rhythms. CIR, circadian rhythms. It's your daily behaviors, your reproductive organs. Sometimes people take melatonin when they're traveling to different time zones to help them sleep. Circadian rhythms, daily behaviors. Yes?
Does melatonin immediately go down when you see light? Or
Yeah.
does it take time? So is that
I'm sure it takes some time. I
groggy
don't,
when you
yeah,
wake
not
up?
too much, yeah.
I always wake up when I'm tired.
All right,
2
now,
minutes later.
I asked you to do this before. See if you can do it again with no mistakies. Okay? No mistakies.
Oh my. Oh.
Oh, what is it?
It's so good.
It's like Frankenstein.
You like match the things on the right. What you do is you drag. Dad. You're gonna drag one of the things on the left into that little green bulb, and then one of the orange things into that orange bulb to match it.
Oh, to match the questions.
That's what you do, and then you match them, and then they go up together.
Oh.
Oh, calcium. Oh, I only missed one. It sucks back in the water that you
Anybody get undies? Well done. Good job, guys. Okay, so now we're going to talk about some other hormones. The reason why they're in quotes is because these are secreted from tissues and cells, not glands. Not gland. That's why they're called other hormones. One of them is leptin. It tells you to leap away from the table. It gives you a sense of fullness. It comes from your fat tissue. I don't know, this has happened to me many, many times. I am absolutely freaking starving beyond capacity. I want to eat my arm, I'm so hungry. So I run home and eat the cupboard or I eat the fridge. And you don't even stop to consider. You're just like, oh, I'm so hungry, okay? And I can't stop eating, I'm just starving. I think I'm gonna like pass out. I don't allow my body to give me normal, I need to breathe while I'm eating, and to get back into homeostasis there. If I gave, because you know that feeling when you overeat and then you go, oh, I ate too much, right? That's because you didn't allow leptin to give you that sense of fullness. So you want to not rush when you're eating. So on that one, leptin produced from fat tissues, fullness. It gives you fullness, sense of fullness. Okay, growth hormone. Who secretes growth hormone? Which part of the pituitary? Anterior pituitary. Remember, who's the only one hanging on to the post?
The oxytocin,
Oxytocin and ADH. You're either hanging onto the post while you have a baby or hanging onto the post while you go pee. Okay? Good. Okay, growth hormone is secreted by the anterior pituitary, but growth factors are secreted by many different tissues, okay, many different cells. Obviously, he has some issues, okay? So, growth factors are released by many tissues and stimulate cell division. Word to the men. I don't know any women who find this attractive. There's nobody who ever says to me, oh, he looks so good, okay? I've heard that exactly 0 times, okay? All right, yeah, it's terrifying.
Like
I don't like what you're wearing. Okay.
If someone would like hug it, he would like
No. Okay.
yeah.
HBio, I don't have this in your notes, but HBio is secreted by your kidneys to increase red blood cell production. And this is actually manufactured right down the street at Amgen. And it's for cancer patients who have had their bone marrow just, destroyed by either the treatment or the cancer itself. However, this drug has been abused. Can you think of somebody who might want to abuse this drug? What?
What about that one guy that jacked up the price of that one drug?
No, I mean like people take it illegally, yeah.
Maybe like crack addicts?
Okay. No. Athletes. Competitive athletes, right? Why would they want to take EPO? If they have more red blood cells, what? They'll have more oxygen, then they won't fatigue as easy. I see that? And I don't know the latest on drug testing, so I don't want to be an ignoramus on this, but the last I heard about this is they don't actually even test for EPO because, you're going to take something to mask it. They test for the drug that masks the EPO.
So you just take EPO and don't take
Maybe. I don't know if they run the test. You got it. Score. Yes. The kidney is an organ, but it also secretes a hormone. Yeah. And another one too is renin, but we haven't talked about that. Okay. So from the kidney. So on next one I want to show you is prostaglandins. Now, prostaglandins can do many different things, but the thing about them is they work just locally. And they can make your uterus contract, if you have one, mediate pyrogens, that has to do with temperature, reducing gastric secretion, lowers blood pressure, but over here, it creates pain, basically. Why would we ever have some sort of chemical that enhances our pain? Why would that be adaptive? Yes?
This is a guess, but like if you break something, you need to know.
There we go. It was an excellent guess. You need to know that there's been damage so you can deal with it, right? So that's why we have something that lets us know there is pain. When you take something like Advil or aspirin,
Sarah Miller to quote for your book.
yes, you may have Sarah Miller.
Hi, Sarah.
Bye, Sarah Miller. We'll miss you.
Hi.
When you take aspirin, you are blocking the receptors for prostaglandins. Does that make sense? So when you take that chemical and put that in your body and in your bloodstream, that's blocking the receptors for that pain. You know what a good time is to take Advil? Maybe an hour before if you're afraid when you go to the dentist. Take it about an hour before. And then it's already in your system, so if you have pain, it decreases it not because you're not having the pain, but the receptors for it. Okay? So on your prostaglandins, I want you to write act locally. Act locally. See where I am? Okay, and then the last one is understanding pheromones. There are lots of chemical signals. We learned about chemical signals in our immune system, right? Remember cytokines? I don't know how I was saying cytokines. And interferon and interleukin, remember those? Those are all chemical messengers. Hormones are chemical messengers. But hormones work within our body. Interleukin works within our body. But you can have chemical messages that work at a distance between two different organisms, okay? And those are called pheromones. Okay, so pheromones are between. And remember when we learned about this in behavior? Remember behavior, back, beginning of the year? Okay, so pheromones, chemical signals that act between individuals. pheromones can communicate many different things. They can communicate territory. That can communicate, hey, baby. You know, like if a mouse secretes a pheromone, female mouse, mice from like 2 miles away are like, okay, and they're hauling to try to be there first, right? So those are pheromones. Now, interesting, and I believe your additional objective is over this, maybe, I think in this chapter. And they took men and had them wear t-shirts, all day.
That was a while ago.
Was that a while ago, right? Remember? And then they put the t-shirts, and I've seen it repeated multiple times, like once there was a whole show on it. And then they took the t-shirts off after they wore them all day, put them in a Ziploc bag, and then laid them out, and then a string of women went by the bags, and they would open up the bags and go, or they would open up a bag and put it away, right? And so they recorded which bags, which response, but then they had the men, totally objectification, but putting the men up on a stage, and they'd be like him, no, probably cute, and like him, no. And it didn't always match with what they smelled, and that connection. And you're young, so you might not have experienced this yet, and hopefully you're saving all your kisses just for the right person. But you might start to date someone, and then it comes to that point where you're going to kiss them, and you're like, nothing. I got nothing. You might kiss them and just go, there's nothing, I don't have anything for them. And it could be our body is trying to preserve variety, because remember the MHCs in the immune system, right? And we are attracted chemically to somebody who has different MHCs than our own. And that way, in our offspring have a greater variety of MHCs. And you can be actually chemically repelled by somebody who has similar MHCs to your own. So, and that could also explain too, like somebody might be somebody's boyfriend or girlfriend, and maybe to the general public, they wouldn't rate him as like, Ryan Gosling, okay, who's beautiful in every single way, and you can't look into his eyes. But oh my gosh, Google.
Ryan Gosling.
I'm just gonna Google anyways.
Now, look, I've got an opinion on that.
Yep.
Now, come back. Okay, I digress.
That's creepy.
That's a hideous picture of him. He's much more beautiful.
No, like they took his teeth out.
Oh, okay. Okay, I'm sorry I even brought him up. Come back to me. Okay. Now. Okay, where's the teacher? Look, something shiny. Okay. But you may be attracted to them more than the average bear. You might get up to Ryan Gosling and have an opportunity to go on a date with him, and then you go in for the kiss and go, not for me. Because he has similar MHCs to you, so your body is not drawn into that person. Whereas somebody else doesn't think is the hottest thing on the planet. When they go in, there's a connection, a chemical connection there because their MHCs are different. Now, this is not the same as this problem, okay? Body odor, okay? That could be something entirely different. You secrete things, okay? You secrete your sweat, and what really causes the stank is the bacteria that are breaking down that sweat, and that's what you smell. I'm not really talking about that. That issue is you better shower more, okay? You can have secretions, but the stank level of it is due to that bacteria. You should shower more. And if you have a friend who stinks, I know as a teacher, let me tell you, I walk by some children, and I walk into that cloud that they generate, and oh, dang. And I have to, act like it's not a problem and just kind of go, and turn away. But if you have a friend that smells on a regular basis, be that good friend and tell them, okay? Be brave. Be brave, young Padawan. Let them know. Shower more. All right. So, under your examples, women prefer men who have different MHC molecules than themselves. Women prefer men who have different MHC molecules than themselves. Okay. You are now going to get a 10 question. I'm not going to give you a lot of time. Little practice quiz over everything, and I wish you the best of luck. Some of them may come from the mini-me's, so you might have to look at the mini-me's. Okay?
The little tiny things that were worked out. She said weren't like out of work. They're like a little fold.
And I'm gonna say, I hope this is helpful. And I'm gonna pause, so then you can get the answers to the questions. Just a moment. Okay, welcome back. We're gonna go ahead and check our results. Okay, good job on the first question. I have a couple skips, but maybe you weren't in. How'd you do? Got them all right? Okay, so you guys, for those that are watching this from home, let's just go through so we can give them all, because they can't see the questions unless we go through it. So if you're missing iodine and you have goiter, then you're lacking thyroid hormone. Oh, okay, let's talk about this one. Okay, come back to me. Shh. This is a hard one. Okay, let's go through it. It talks about levels of glucose. Pancreas, I'm surprised 6 of you picked pancreas, because that's the most obvious one, okay, that affects levels of glucose because of what 2 hormones? Insulin and glucagon. Yeah, so I definitely would not pick A. Okay, I'm assuming you misread the question. Okay, B, the adrenal glands, that's because the adrenal cortex secretes glucocorticoids, if you recall, and that elevates blood glucose levels. And in turn, the pituitary can secrete adrenal corticotropic hormone, which stimulates the adrenal cortex. Okay, and then the hypothalamus controls the pituitary, which stimulates the adrenal glands. So that's why those 3 would all be together. Now, you should have picked thymus even if you didn't know that. Why? What's the only thing the thymus gland does? T-cell maturation. That doesn't have anything to do with glucose. Okay, look at your BioBuddy screen right now and see if they got that right. They get some shame?
No, I didn't know what the other ones were, so I just picked that one because I knew that wasn't true.
Oh wait, is it shame though? So you gotta go on with
Okay, this one was a mini-me one, so you might not have got this one right. But hyposecretion since birth is cretinism. That one was a hard one. I wouldn't ask you that on a quiz. Matt, oh, you all got that. I'm guessing these 2 people are people who logged out, so good job. Posterior pituitary is what secretes stores oxytocin and secretes it. Growth hormone, almost all of you got that from the anterior pituitary. Not the postpit, not the thyroid. Which gland secretes a hormone that stimulates the formation of milk? That would be the anterior pituitary. Now name that hormone for me. Prolactin. Prolactin. Okay. The 10 of you that picked the post-pit, what were you thinking about? Oxytocin. And oxytocin is the answer to this question, the release of milk. The making of milk is prolactin, the release is oxytocin. Okay, name the hormone epinephrine. Most of you got that. Adrenal medulla. In the middle of stress. Peptide hormones are received by a receptor located on the plasma membrane. 7 of you said D, B and C. Okay, you can't be received on the plasma membrane and inside the cell. It's one or the other. Okay, inside the cell would be a steroid or lipid hormone. Check your BioBuddies clicker on that one because they definitely need to review that.
It's not a clicker.
Oh yeah, not clicker, screen. That's gonna take a while. 7 years of clicker. At least. One of the chief differences between endocrine hormones and local hormones is the distance which they act. Now, if this had been a quiz, what would you have earned? Tell your BioBuddy. A, B, C, D. Okay, and I have just 2 or 3 more questions to see how you do on these.
Let's see what you know so far.
Yeah, let's see what you know.
Gland is
Read the question carefully. Sorry, I forgot to pause you.
Oh,
We're almost done.
It's no, it's the
5, 4, 3,
No, it's not.
2.
maybe it is.
It's not.
All right. Which gland is involved in digestion and regulates your blood sugar? The pancreas is right.
Leptin.
Are you trying to say hippocampus? That's memory? No.
Oh, it is pituitary.
Which gland helps you regulate your metabolism? Thyroid. If I had said which hormone, that would be right. Okay. Make sure you don't screw up your thymus and thyroid. We've heard it done a couple times. Look at your bio buddies' screen. Shade. Do you need to throw them some shade or some celebrate?
Put you in
Brain.
Nice. Master gland. Okay. When is the review for this? Okay. I'll see you then on that. And go ahead and open up your group shared notes for